Hello. Welcome to my channel, TV-DICTION, where we talk about all of my latest TV obsessions. Today is not really a TV obsession because this show ended back in 2020, I believe. However, it feels just like a fever dream. Like, we can't watch it nowhere on streaming sites. I see why, because the original House of Payne is back. But how are we just acting like it never existed? Like, how are we acting like this never happened? For those of you who missed it, and for those of you who don't know, back in 2018 till about 2020, Tyler Perry gave us The Paynes, which was supposed to be a spinoff of House of Payne that premiered on OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. It, of course, starred Cassie Davis as Aunt Ella, LaVan Davis as Uncle Curtis. We were also introduced to new characters such as Joanne, played by the Jackie Harry herself, Joanne's son Ryan, played by Marquise Moore, Nyla, played by Stephanie Charles, Nyla's two kids, Lynn and Kenny, played by Sanai Victoria and J.D. McCrary, Kendrick, who is played by Matthew Law, and Anthony Dalton as Terrence. This was actually the first show I saw Anthony Dalton in prior to him playing Calvin in Sisters. The premise of the show was that Aunt Ella and Uncle Curtis were retiring to Florida. Actually, Uncle Curtis, after attending a family member's funeral, let Aunt Ella and the rest of the family know that he basically uprooted their entire lives to Florida, bought a house, invested in a laundromat, all without consulting Aunt Ella. You know, typical Uncle Curtis. However, Aunt Ella's first stop in getting settled into their Florida life was, of course, checking out her new church home and checking out their help center, which she, wants to become involved in. And that's where we meet Nyla, who is clearly in an abusive relationship with her boyfriend, Kendrick. And, Aunt Ella's heartstrings are immediately pulled into trying to help Nyla out of that situation again. And then we find out that the laundromat that Uncle Curtis invested in is a dud, more of a liability than an investment. Throughout the series' 40 or so episodes, we got to see Uncle Curtis rehabilitating the laundromat with Terrence, and Aunt Ella opening up their home to Nyla and the kids. Trying to help Nyla leave that abusive relationship with Kendrick. And speaking of Nyla, she was caught in a love triangle with Kendrick and Terrence. She had Kendrick, who, although was abusive, he did rescue her from being homeless and took her in with her two kids. So she felt some type of bond and loyalty to him. And then we have Terrence, who they really just met, but he is literally vying for her heart. He's like, I would love you and your two children. But she kept on tittering back between both of them. It's like you see that she was interested in Terrence, but something kept on holding her back. And we would always see her end up back in that cycle with Kendrick. On top of the fact that, she's trying to leave this abusive relationship, Nyla then found out she's pregnant, which also becomes a point of contention that we see on why she wouldn't pursue a relationship with Terrence. The series, just like the original, ended on a cliffhanger with Nyla running into the laundromat in tears and falling into Terrence's arms, saying he hit me, alluding to the fact that Kendrick hit her. And as I said before, she was pregnant at this time. The series ending the way it did is why I would like to see it revived, because one, I hate series finales that end in a cliffhanger, because I feel like series finales should be a completion of a story, not something that's has us holding on as if it will be picked up again. We need to close out them storylines. And two, the fact that Kendrick put his hands on a pregnant woman does not sit well with me, okay? I need to see that show come back just so I can see that there were repercussions to his actions, okay? There's no way you're telling me that this man put his hand on a pregnant woman and got off scotch-free. I don't believe it. Okay, here's how I would want to see the show be revived. Obviously, since the original House of Pain is back on air, the revival will come under a new name. And I don't want to hear that it can't be done, because look at Roseanne. When that whole situation happened with her, ABC dropped Roseanne with the quickness and adopted the Connors. They rebranded as the Connors and they never looked back. So I know that it can happen. I want the show to be introduced through a backdoor pilot crossover episode, similar to how the WB did with Girlfriends and The Game, because the introduction for The Game was Joan visiting Melanie in San Diego, because the connection was that Joan was Melanie's cousin or something, if I remember. And then that crossover episode became the pilot episode for The Game. So I want that concept to be applied here. We would see Aunt Ella and Uncle Curtis sitting down with either Calvin or CJ or the both of them, asking them to watch over the house as they travel back to Florida to handle some affairs with Curtis's family, because that's the connection to Florida. Because I believe Joanne, who is played by Harry, is Curtis's cousin. So we would then get a scene with them arriving to the house in Florida, greeted by Nyla and the kids, as they proceed to inform them on all that have occurred since they moved back to Georgia. Here we would find out if Terrence got a chance to beat the brakes off of Kendrick for putting his hands on a pregnant woman. Anyways, the pilot episode would end with Aunt Ella and Uncle Curtis telling Nina that they are giving her the house and their share of the laundromat, because it is shared between them and Terrence, because they owed him, for all the construction he did. So, and then there you have it, a new show created just like that. The show would go on to surround Nyla and how she manages, the new responsibility of the house, the laundromat, her kids, the pregnancy, what's going on with her and Kendrick, what is potential between her and Terrence. And then Joanne, once again played by Jack A., would become the Miss Ella of the show. She would be the one to, give that motherly Christian advice that Miss Ella is known to give. I would like to see all the original cast reprise their roles if they're all available. But let me know down in the comments, is this something you'd be interested in, or do you want to just keep it in the past? This scene right here for the last episode, technically the series finale, really got me.
You don't know anything about me, where I come from, what I've been through.
Look, Nyla, I may not know everything, all right? But I know enough to know that I want to get to know you and learn all there is about you.
I am totally a sucker for a will they, won't they, professing of love, sappy scene between two characters who I am rooting to fall in love with each other.